On today's video, the Ultimate Highboy build series, we take it out and do some driving. So last time you saw it fire up, fill you in on what I've been doing since then. Put a new floor in. You saw me, it was kind of fighting me a little bit. Did a lot of trimming. Some of it still isn't laying down like I want it, but I'm hoping that with the heat and stuff it'll kind of lay down. Put the seat in. I'm going to have this recovered at some point in black or fabric pattern. I'm not sure which I want yet, so I just threw the original seat in there for now so I have a place to sit. But the interior is all complete. I have the shifter in and the boot. Still haven't figured out the controller yet for the transmission. It's been the weekend here, so I haven't got much done on that. Everybody's been closed. And you've got the engine bar on and the shocks reservoirs mounted. Air cleaner's on there. This thing is ready to go for a test drive. I only have reverse and first gear is all I have. So we'll go putt around the shop and take it for the first drive. Power steering yet either. I'm waiting on a couple fittings. So still doesn't do too bad. Don't have any shocks in the rear end yet either. It's kind of bouncy. Brakes yet either, so had to stand on the brake pedal pretty hard. So yeah, first test drive went pretty good. So I got my transmission issue figured out. I went ahead and ordered one of these lead frames from my parts warehouse. They had one in stock. I guess these things have been on back order, and I was really lucky that they had one in stock. But this is the old one, and the part that failed, I guess, I'm not quite sure what the problem is, but this right here, the range sensor, it tells the transmission what gear you have selected with your gear shift on the column, and that wasn't giving the correct read feedback. And I don't know if it's the issue or not, but it had a bunch of the like metal paste that you find in transmissions on the magnet. It had a bunch of that on this sensor. I don't know if that was from when I got the transmission rock around on the bed of the pickup, or fabbing on this thing, moving the transmission around. It might have fell on its side a few times or something like that, and it got some of that around the sensor, and it caused the sensor to short out. I don't know, it's just my theory anyway, but thought I would show you what's going on under here before I bolted it all back up. I got the new one on here. This is the valve body. I have to cover off this trans obviously, but it's right here, and this right here is that range sensor. So they have to take the valve body off and bolt this onto the top of the valve body. But I've got it, I've replaced, and I've already tried it. See, the transmission controller says park, reverse, neutral, first. So it's working. I'll get this thing buttoned back up and we'll see if it shifts. So first real big trip in the Highboy here. Drove it to town and on out on some highways and stuff. And originally I wasn't going to do any filming because it wasn't driving very good. Seemed to be riding pretty rough. Once I got out on some smoother roads, the state highway, it does a lot better. Especially when I got above 65, it smoothed out a lot. See right here, it's shaking pretty bad. It's 50, 55. I think that's all of the tires on the county roads. When I was going 65 or 55, it was riding pretty rough. I figured it's going to shake the camera too much, but once you get above 60, it smooths out. So I had to get the tires balanced. They're unbalanced right now. So those old high-supply tires are probably not helping. But it does pretty good. Here we're going 65, back at the shop. So we're back here at the shop. I thought I would end this video by going over some things that I like and some things that I don't like about this truck, since I have probably 60 to 80 miles on this thing, so not a ton, but I thought this would be a good time to give my just first initial impressions on the build and let you guys know what I think. So I guess I'd start off with the things I don't like, since there's not many. Number one would be the tires. Now, I originally got these tires because of the look, and they're 10 out of 10 on the look. You know, that they really have a good look with the truck, and they look like old co-op grip spurs that we used to run on these old trucks, and that's why I got them. You know, they have that mean, aggressive, old school look, but that big lug pattern on the tire and being a bias ply, that's going to help hurt it in the performance aspect of it, and especially when you get out on the highway. And you know, I built this truck to be able to drive it on the highway and perform more like a modern vehicle, and these tires really start showing where they have their downfalls whenever you get this truck out on the highway. They make a lot of noise, and they're unbalanced, which I don't have the tires, I don't have them balanced, so that, you know, that's kind of my fault, but they're pretty bad out of the box. And they do pick up on the gravel roads. They pick up a ton of rocks here. I got rocks stuck in the lugs here, and they really beat the bottom side of this truck with the rocks. But you know, being out in the country, you get that a lot. And if you just had these on an old truck out in the country, that you wouldn't even notice any difference. But that is one thing that I probably, next to the tires, I'm probably just going to get the BF Goodrich, what is it, 255, 85, 16, the tall skinny ones. They're a little bit taller than these. It'd probably help this truck out a lot on the highway side of things. But they do look great, and they fit the truck perfect, and I get a ton of comments on the tires. So, you know, I guess it depends on what you're using the truck for, what you can live with and what you can't live without. Next thing would probably be the sway bar. The sway bar seems to be a touch on the stiff side, and that it was left over from another project I had, so it was just, I didn't spend any money on it, or I did, but it was left over, so it was just sitting around. So it works for being leftovers and thrown on the truck, and it keeps the truck level when you're in a corner. It doesn't lean over at all, which my other truck, my 2006 that we have 4-link on and coilovers in the front, it has a lot bigger sway bar than this. I mean, that thing's probably that big on that one, and it still lays over. So it does its job good on this truck, but I took it out on some got it on some rocks and tried to get it to flex out, and it picked one of the rear tires up before the front hardly even flexed any. So when we're doing some real off-road, and we'll probably just have to disconnect the sway bar, but it does a great job on the street and does its job well. I would say another thing that I'm kind of unhappy with the build, although there's not many other options I could have gone with, was the floor mat. And if you remember on the previous videos, I had to put this hump in because the F100 with the 3-speed, the hump was right here, so the old floor mat isn't going to work. Of course, when you take it apart, it fell apart. It was old and crumbly, so I had to put a new floor mat in it. And as you can see, it just, of course, some of this may be installation error. I haven't done this before, so I might have done it all wrong, but it just didn't. It's supposed to be formed, and some of it did a really good job, like around here. It did a pretty good job, but right here on the floorboard, these wrinkles and stuff just haven't ever gotten out of it. So that's one thing I'm not happy with. But like I said, there's not many other options. I guess I could go carpet, but it wouldn't really fit this truck. So anyway, nitpicking, getting down to nitpicking here. I was trying to think of things that I didn't like. You know, I had to really think about stuff that I didn't like. Oh, here's another thing. Just like I said, we're nitpicking here, but I put the original steering wheel on here, and this is a aftermarket steering column, and it has these kind of shiny like turn signal and your gear lever here. They're kind of made for an aftermarket steering wheel, and most of the aftermarket steering wheels aren't this big. These were bigger because a lot of these trucks had manual steering, and the bigger steering wheel helps you with that. But the turn, see if I can get a good shot here. The turn signal, you have to reach around the steering wheel. You can't just hit it from over here. And same thing with the gear lever. You have to go under the steering wheel to get to it. But it works. You just got to get used to it. You can't just go out here and pull it down. You got to go back up under the steering wheel there. Now, I guess that's probably all I have for really things I didn't like, or problems I had with it. But the things I do like is that transmission controller. That thing is, we had that problem with the lead frame in the transmission, and that's not the controller's fault, but the controller made it so easy for me to figure out that it's the lead frame, because it had the error codes. And if it was just some of the other controllers that don't have those screens and stuff, well, I guess you would know that it probably isn't going into gear, or it doesn't know that's going into gear. But it made figuring that out really easy, and setting this thing up, it was super easy. As far as all the wires are labeled, the instructions were really detailed, told you how to hook everything up. I've done other transmission controllers in the past, and this one was way better. And here's all these extra wires of stuff you can do. I haven't cut all these up and cleaned them up because I'm not sure what I'm using and what I'm not using. But the amount of user options with this thing is awesome. You can do upshift, downshift, and everything. So I might have one for a shift, different shift program for when I'm in low range. And I might have some switches over here for that. And you can also have it make a kick out of overdrive and stuff like that, which I haven't. Kind of want to drive it some more and see what I need and what I don't need. But that transmission controller is really great. Another thing I like is the Hydro Boost and the power steering. The Hydro Boost with the disc brakes. I have disc brakes in the front and the rear. Braking this thing, I mean, it's like driving a new vehicle as far as the braking distance on it. You don't have to pump the brakes, you don't have to do any of that. You just touch the brake pedal and it's slowing down. And a lot of times I'm worried that my brake lights aren't even coming on because I'm barely even touching the brake pedal. And the steering gear, it's got Super Duty steering gear. The steering is just almost too light. And I did have a problem. This power steering belt was too loose. I got a shorter one, and that fixed that issue. So that's all good. The fuel injection system on this, it's performing very well. It's not as I don't want to sound like I'm ragging on it too much. It was a bit harder to figure out as far as getting everything set up. But you just have to read the instructions several times, I guess, before it all sinks in, and you kind of get a big picture of what everything you got to do. Once you get started and get that going, it's a breeze. It's not hard by any means. It was just a little bit more complicated than some of the other options you could have done, because, well, for one, the throttle body fuel injection ones, where it just looks like a carburetor and you put it on an intake, all that stuff is self-contained in that unit. And this one, all the wiring harness is external, and you have PCM here and different plugs and everything. So it was just a scale higher and complicated versus a throttle body one, but it's performing very well, and it did a great job. The truck fired right up when we wanted it to, and it always starts great. And I don't really have any complaints as far as drivability with it yet. It's done really good as far as, when you first step on the gas, there isn't any hesitation or anything yet. And I really haven't noticed anything as far as learning. These are self-learning EFI setups, they call them. And it did really good just from the beginning. So So that's really good. It's been a learning experience because, for one, if you don't know, I'm a diesel mechanic, so everything I know is diesels, and I have diesel drag car, and I have a 390 in my 72, but it's carbureted and points distributor, and my dad helps me with that because he's been messing with those for years, and this EFI we didn't have any experience with, so it's been a kind of a learning curve, but I'm getting it figured out. Another thing that I love about the truck is the front bumper. I get a lot of comments on the front bumper. It's a Buckstop truck wear, as they call it. There's the website and phone number. This is their vintage line, or vintage series, and it's actually made for these trucks. It'll bolt on a factory Highboy or just a two-wheel drive if you wanted to do that, but they have their own brackets that bolt to the frame here. Of course, I had to modify mine because the frame isn't stock, but it fits the truck good. We got the Warren 8274 70th anniversary. That makes the truck look a little more mean in the front. That bumper is probably up like top 3 of favorite things about this truck. See if I can think of another thing that I like. Well, here's the thing I didn't like that I did talk about. The muffler is a bit loud. Driving it, when you're driving it, it's not as bad, but because you're in the cab, but it's loud for the people on the outside. Here, I'll start it and do a walk around with it outside since we're not in the shop here. It's a bit loud. So I might put a bigger muffler on it at some point. Sounds good though. So yeah, here's my first impressions of the truck. Of course, we only have like 60-80 miles, like I said, on it, so a lot to do yet as far as refining it and making it drive really nice. But those are my initial first impressions, and I have a bumper located for the rear, and we'll be going to get that tomorrow. And I still have a lot of little things to finish up, and I have to change the rear end. So I'll get a lot of that stuff done and show you guys some of it, and we'll go from there. So I think that's about it for this episode as far as driving it goes. So hope you guys like that. Trying to keep these episodes short, not make them too long, so we'll see how this one goes. But anyway, thanks for watching.